What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to Halifax Sports Talk, your home for everything Halifax sports, whether it be Thunderbirds, Mooseheads, Wanderers, or any big sporting event around the Maritimes. We're here to cover it for you. Today, it's a QMJHL season preview, more specifically, a Mooseheads season preview. The Halifax Mooseheads take on the Charlottetown Islanders Saturday night at home for their home opener, but Friday night on the road at the Eastlink Center in Charlottetown for the season opener. We'll be covering that in a video tomorrow, so stay tuned on the channel for the second video. But first, we're going to do a season preview for these Mooseheads, get into the nuts and bolts that build this roster, and see what the Mooseheads can really do this year. See what the expectations might be for this young team that's supposed to be in the second year of a rebuild. But if you ask me, I don't really think that's the truth. If you ask a lot of people around the Mooseheads team, around the organization, or even around the city that have followed the team, I think they might say the exact same thing. The Mooseheads made the finals in 2023, and then they kind of fell off in 2024. They were supposed to be a front runner. They got knocked out in 4 games to Bathurst. Bathurst is no longer a team anymore, but ever since then, it kind of started the rebuild in a way for the Mooseheads. Last season was kind of the last shot, the last kick at the can for guys like Logan Crosby, Matthews Rousseau, Matthew Cataford, and Marcus Vidicek, who all got traded. And then it left the 20-year-olds of Braden McPhee, Brady Schultz, the captain, and Jacob Steinman, who got traded in that Matthews Rousseau trade. And Jacob Steinman played a pretty big role in the Mooseheads organization. Ever since he got traded, he became a fan favorite instantly because of the way he played. And eventually he carried the Mooseheads pretty much on his back to the second round last year, beating the number 1 seed Drummondville Voltigeur in 7 games. I don't know how the Mooseheads did it. I remember being in Toronto at a Blue Jays game and thinking, to be honest, I don't need to stay home and watch the Mooseheads game. They're probably going to get pumped. It's game 1. Man, was I wrong. 7th inning, I'm sitting up in the 500s. I'm checking my phone because it's 2-2 going into overtime at the Marcel Dion Center in Drummondville. And I'm thinking, holy crap. Like, I'm tuning into this. Screw the Jays. But that's when the Jays also weren't first in the league. So it made sense. But anyways, Jacob Steinman played a big part in that. He's obviously a big loss. 2 of them going the NCAA route. Jacob Steinman going to Bowling Green, and Brady Schultz going to Quinnipiac for the Bobcats. And Braden McPhee, he's going to the U Sports. He's going to UNB Varsity Reds. A little bit of a different path, but he's going to be studying business there. He spent the offseason in the box office with the Mooseheads, and he was doing some ticket sales along with some other things. So, yeah, he's also trying to be a coach. He was working on his coaching in the offseason, so it's always nice to see the graduating players from the Mooseheads going on, and obviously Brady Schultz and Jacob Steinman taking advantage of that new CHL to NCAA pipeline that opened up this offseason. I assume we'll get into that a lot more once this channel gets up and going. Myself and Andrew will probably get into talks about that a lot. But now let's talk about the draft. I think the draft is probably the most important part of the season. It really kicks off the new season. It brings in the new players. They get ready for camp. And it really just gives the team a new look, especially when you're rebuilding like this Halifax Mooseheads team is. And I guess the first player we'll talk about would be Malik Letalien. Obviously, he was drafted 3rd overall by the Mooseheads. Cam Russell said that they weren't really looking to jump up to grab anyone if Letalien was open. If he was going to be going higher than 3, they would have jumped up to grab him, but they liked where he was and they liked him as a player. And Cam Russell said that this was their guy from the start. Malik Letalien was the guy that they wanted, and he's the guy that they got. He's a 6'2", 188-pound defenseman from Montreal. He played at Stansted College, place that I was going to go, but obviously it's a little pricey. I don't know if that was up my alley. Yeah, but he's definitely going to be a standout defenseman. I have him going probably second pair. I won't give you guys too much information on that. I have my lineup projections coming. That'll be in the next video tomorrow with the Charlottetown and Halifax game preview. So keep your eyes tuned for that. But the other guys that the Mooseheads brought in this offseason weren't in the draft. They were in the import draft. And the reason that this is important for the Mooseheads is because the CHL actually gave the teams a new rule this year, and it allows them to bring in 3 import players and have 3 import players on a roster rather than 2. What is an import player, you may ask? Well, an import player is someone that is from outside of North America. Americans don't count as imports. So it's mainly players from Europe. The Mooseheads, they went and got themselves Russian Oleg Kulebyakin. He got 72 points in 33 games with the Carolina Junior Hurricanes last year. Played a couple of games in the USHL before getting sent down. Kulebyakin was looking really good at camp in the few games that I was able to watch on live stream. He scored a couple of goals in the game against Cape Breton. He's looking really strong. Obviously, he's a Russian kid. He's played against older players growing up all of his life. He was 16 playing in the USHL last year. So that says something a little bit right there about him. But the other guy, Yasu Mensonen, coming over from the Lukko U20 program in Finland. He scored 26 points in 40 games last year, playing with guys that are definitely a little bit older than him. U20, you got guys that are probably 18, 19, looking to crack some major rosters or some pro rosters. Mensonen was 15, 16. Same with Kulebyakin. He was in the same kind of age bracket, playing against guys that are at least 2 to 3 years older than him. And man, these guys definitely exceeded expectations big time. And I think Halifax got 2 decent players here in the draft. I think both of them will probably be playing top 6 minutes. Again, won't give too much information. Check out tomorrow's video. I'll have my opening night roster projection in that. But yeah, the import draft obviously showing well for the Mooseheads. They've got a couple of studs looking to crack. Well, obviously they've cracked the roster, but looking to make an impact on this roster, make an impact right away. The next guy we'll go to is goaltender Owen Brisson. He came over from Shawinigan, and before Shawinigan, he was in the BCHL. And then last year, in a trade, or I guess in the offseason, in a trade, came over to Halifax. He is the Nova Scotia boys from Dominion NS. He's 6'3", 190 pounds. I have a little bit of, not insight, I guess a theory on him and where he'll play and when he'll start. And they also brought in Connor McPherson from the Penticton Vs. McPherson played 5 games at UNH last year, so he has some NCAA experience. There's a lot of guys going from the Q and the CHL to the NCAA, but McPherson, one of those guys coming from the NCAA to the Q. Maybe he figured that since the pipeline is now open, he'll come back, make it worth his while to come back to junior hockey, kind of play as a leader. He'll be an older guy. He'll be able to kind of take control, use his skills to kind of control the game and have a season that he probably wouldn't have had in the NCAA. I'll say it that way, to say it the nicest way possible. To McPherson, obviously, 5 games played last year. He's going to get a lot more ice time in the QMJHL. It's probably where he is meant to be at this point in his career. But for Brisson, I actually, I'll give you guys this one. I don't have him starting in the season opener. I have Nick Circa starting in the season opener, the other goalie for the Halifax Mooseheads. We'll get into that tomorrow for the lineup projections. But yeah, I think Brisson, since he's from Dominion, I think they'll play him in the home opener just to have the hometown guy playing in the hometown home opener. A couple of other guys that have kind of been doing well for the Mooseheads. Carlos Hondel, he was at the Montreal rookie camp this past month in Brossard. It's always nice to see some guys at camp getting the experience that they probably would have needed and wouldn't have got in the QMJHL. So it's nice for Hondel to go out there and play with some other guys and some other leagues from Europe, like he's from, play with some guys from the Dub, play with some guys from the O, play with some guys from the States, and really get to see what he's up against. Montreal's got a deep defensive prospect pool, and you throw Carlos Hondel in there, you never know where he's going to fit, what his timeline is going to look like to get to the NHL, but it's always good for his development. And he is the only drafted player on this Mooseheads roster, so that is something to look out for. A couple of guys I'm shocked didn't get drafted last year, Liam Kilfoyle and Sean Carrier. But Liam Kilfoyle is the other player I wanted to talk about. He's at the Detroit Red Wings main camp right now. He has made the roster. He was picked up and brought to camp on an invite, and he made the main camp roster. He scored a nice goal against Dallas. I tweeted that out the other day on my Twitter. If you want to go check that out, follow me at Comeau Daeden. Kilfoyle has been one of the standout players for Halifax ever since he was drafted. The Quispamsis boy came in from the prep school in New Brunswick, coming into the Q. He had a slow start, but last year he took off, and I expect him to be a leader this year. He was newly minted as a assistant captain by Coach Brad McKenzie. And Brad McKenzie also newly appointed as the head coach. We'll get into that in just a second, because the Mooseheads have kind of had a coaching carousel the past few years. But since we're talking about the captains, let's name them all off. We've got Matthew Taillefer with the A, Quinn Kennedy with the A, Liam Kilfoyle with an A, and this season, it's Captain Phillips, one of the best movies ever made. Owen Phillips from Hammonds Plains. He's wearing the C this year, for the Halifax Mooseheads. So heavy shoulder for Owen Phillips, but I don't think there's anybody else that really deserves it. Phillips has been around the team for a long time, and he's definitely one of the leaders. He's a quiet guy, but he definitely leads on the ice by example. And I don't think there's anybody else that's really more deserving. And I think with Brad McKenzie being the coach, being in Halifax for the past few seasons, has seen Phillips ever since he came in as a 16-year-old on that run in 2023. He was solid. He was solid in 2023, and he's been solid ever since as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, now going into his 19-year-old season. He's still got one more year after this of junior hockey eligibility left. So I guess we'll see what Phillips can do. Same with the other guys. I know Taillefer is a 20 this season. He's one of their older guys. Kennedy and Kilfoyle still have a year of eligibility left, or two after this. Kennedy, I believe, 1. Kilfoyle, I believe, 2. But, let's talk about that coaching carousel a little bit here in Halifax, because it's definitely something that we don't see very often. Last year, the Mooseheads brought in Andrew Lord. Andrew Lord coached in the ECHL, and then he came to the Halifax Mooseheads. Only spent one season here in Halifax. Said he would be loyal to Halifax, and he was ready to take this team on a rebuild. And then this past offseason, Brad McKenzie was named the Halifax Mooseheads head coach after Andrew Lord received a new job with the Ontario Reign, coaching them. So Lord goes back. He's coaching another pro bench. McKenzie comes in, but I almost think this is a better fit for the Mooseheads. McKenzie's young. He's from the Maritimes. He's from the area, right? He's not really going anywhere unless he gets that shot. And nothing against Mackenzie, but I think it'll take him a few years of coaching before he gets a shot pro. So for the Mooseheads, a young guy, driven guy in his first year coaching, I think there's not much more that you could ask for. Mackenzie really wants to instill like a lot of offense, a lot of go with these young guys. And I think that's kind of just what the Mooseheads need. They've had a lot of different voices, but at least this one is one that has been with the team just in the assistant role. Okay, let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into this just for a second. I went ahead and pulled up the Mooseheads coaching history, and it doesn't look pretty, to be honest. Last year, Andrew Lord, obviously, we just talked about that. The year before that, Jim Midgley. The year before that, in 2022, 2023, when they went to the finals, it was Sylvain Favreau. He left for Drummondville the year after. The year before, it was Jean-Jacques Daigneault and Sylvain Favreau. And then the year before that, it was Jean-Jacques Daigneault. The year before that, it was Jean-Jacques Daigneault. So the last time they had a coach for over 3 seasons or for over 2 seasons, I guess, before he split it halfway with Sylvain Favreau, was Jean-Jacques Daigneault. But even before that, Eric Veilleux in 2018-19. In 2017-18, Jim Midgley came back, or he was there the first time before he came back last 2 seasons ago. Dominique Ducharme, he was obviously a pretty good coach in Mooseheads country. Took the Mooseheads to the Memorial Cup and won them a Memorial Cup. Well, I shouldn't say he won them a Memorial Cup. I would probably say that it was more these guys back here. But you get what I mean. So that's the Mooseheads kind of coaching debacle that's gone on the past few seasons. Hopefully, Brad Mackenzie, like I said, will be able to come in, settle things down, and be the coach that the Mooseheads need, because I think they're in for a tough season if they don't have a coach with a good game plan. But it sounds like Brad Mackenzie knows what he wants from his players and knows how to get the most out of them. Let's talk about a little bit of off-season news that was just named the other day before we get on to the other maritime teams. Halifax is going to host the QMJHL Draft for the first time in the franchise's history, June 5th and 6th at the Scotiabank Center, downtown Halifax. So that's something to keep your eyes out for if you're a Mooseheads fan, because obviously tickets will be available for that. Fans will be able to go watch and see the next young wave of guys come into the Q and see the talent that'll be out there for you guys to watch and see who your team snags up. All right, let's take a trip around the Maritimes real quick. First, let's take a look at the opening night slate of games. We have Moncton at Newfoundland tonight, September 18th at 6:30 Atlantic time. Obviously, Newfoundland a half hour ahead of everybody. They're the furthest east as you can go in North America. And now they have the QMJHL that has returned. I saw the stuff they were posting on Twitter today. It seems like Newfoundland is getting ready for QMJHL hockey to be back. They're pumped, and looks like the fans are ready to be loud at the Mary Brown Center. They've got a back-to-back weekend series with the Moncton Wildcats. It only makes sense because you don't want teams going over there for one game. It seems like this might happen a lot when you have division rivals like Moncton or any of the other maritime teams coming over. They'll probably do a 2-game swing in the Rock. And then the next game, the one that we'll be breaking down tomorrow, we've got Halifax at Charlottetown at the Eastlink Center at 7 o'clock. And then up on the island, Hockey Island, as they like to call it, Cape Breton at St. John. Cape Breton taking the trip across the bay to the TD station, where St. John's will be waiting for them. St. John's, though, something fun that I saw on Twitter. St. John will not be wearing their new Under Armour jerseys. Everyone knows that the CHL has struck a new deal with Under Armour and Bauer. I don't know if I should say struck, because people don't seem to be too happy about the new jerseys that have came out. Obviously, people see it. They've got the name bar on the back, but above the name bar, there's that weird little, I shouldn't say little also, it's pretty big. The big weird Under Armour logo that just sticks out and is an eyesore. I don't know about that, to be honest. But let's talk about these teams in the Maritimes and what they have going for them. We'll start with the Cape Breton Eagles. They've got a couple of Americans, 3 to be exact, and they're taking a little page out of the Mooseheads book. And they've got former Moosehead Reese Peich. He's coming in after playing Junior A last season, made the team up in Cape Breton. Another shot, another kick at the can in the queue for Peich. It's always good to see a former Q guy come back in. And they've also got 2/3 of the L'Italien trio. I mentioned Malik L'Italien, the guy that Halifax picked up 3rd overall in the draft. Well, Cape Breton has his 2 brothers, Elliot and Romain. They both, or actually all 3 of them, got on the score sheet in the preseason game in Port Hawkesbury a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be tough to really gauge where these teams all sit before opening weekend. But I think Cape Breton is probably into the rebuilding season. As I think it's fair to say, they could shock me. They could prove me wrong. But I think for a couple of teams in this Maritime division, it's rebuild. Moncton, they've got 8 Americans. They're really taking advantage of this NCAA to QMJHL pipeline that has opened up. Without that pipeline opening up, you probably wouldn't have seen all those kids from Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York come to the QMJHL, because they're not used to it, and it's not something that they've ever been willing to do, because they would probably lose NCAA eligibility. Well, now it's not a thing. Moncton's got 8 Americans. They've also got Rudy Guimont. They're probably set for another CHL final in the Memorial Cup, or at least a QMJHL final against Blainville. Blainville's got a stacked roster as well. Caleb Desnoyers is out until mid-November, after having wrist surgery. The Utah Mammoth reported that a few days ago. So Moncton, they'll have to see. Rudy Guimont and their 8 Americans will have to kind of carry them for a little bit. Gardner McDougall will have to make sure his squad is set. But I do think they're probably the best team that comes out of the Maritimes this year. Charlottetown, they've got a couple of Newfoundlanders. Marcus Kiersey, Donald Hickey. We know how they can play. Marcus Kiersey, the captain, he's pretty solid on the back end. He scored a couple of goals against the Mooseheads last year. And Donald Hickey, a couple wins against the Mooseheads last year, if I'm not mistaken. Donald Hickey has that patented green tape on the end of his stick, on the blade of his stick. I'd love to know why Hickey does that. If anyone knows that, let me know in the comments, because every game I watch, every goalie's got white or black tape. Hickey's got green tape on it. So if you know, let me know. The last team I want to touch on, St. John. They've got new jerseys. That's really about it. And Alexei Joseph. They've got the 1st overall pick from last year's, or I guess 2 years ago now, that Q draft. He's been phenomenal for the Sea Dogs, but unfortunately, I don't think they really have the pieces around him just yet. Give the Sea Dogs another season or 2, and hopefully by then, Joseph hasn't gone to the NCAA, and they still have something to build around. Maybe a guy like Latvian Oliver Mirnieks will be a little bit of help to Joseph over there. But I really don't think. I think the 2 strongest teams coming out of the Maritimes this year are Moncton and, believe it or not, Halifax. But that about does it here on Halifax Sports Talk for our first ever 2025-2026 Halifax Mooseheads and QMJHL Maritimes Division season preview. We'll be back tomorrow with a matchup preview for the Halifax Mooseheads against the Charlottetown Islanders. That'll be a great one. Make sure to tune into that. Opening night, pretty sure it might be free on Flow Hockey as well. Flow Hockey's the new broadcasting partner of the CHL, all three leagues, and they're doing a lot of, like tonight's game, Newfoundland and Moncton, free. Go watch it. They're doing a lot of stuff like that. So make sure to tune in to Flow Hockey. They've got a lot of stuff. You're available to watch the games and stuff like that on Flow Hockey. It's a great partnership with the CHL. But make sure you tune in to Halifax Sports Talk for everything going on around here in Halifax. Tune in tomorrow for our matchup preview. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a beat of what's going on over here at Halifax Sports Talk. And we'll catch you in the next one.